Hi, this is Bruce Paul, and you're watching The Lighting Gourmet. This is another video in our series. This one is on recessed. It's going to cover the basics of recessed, parts and terminology. We cover a lot of things. We'll try to do it quickly. We have some more in-depth videos on some of these topics. We're going to talk about the three parts of a recessed. We're going to talk about new construction versus remodel. What does that mean? IC versus non-IC. What does that mean? Line voltage versus low voltage recessed. What do we really mean by that? It's probably not what you think. Housings, we're going to cover some more ground on that one. Then we're going to talk about some details about trims. And we're going to finish up with some details about lamps. Finally, where we combine trims and lamps into what's now called retrofits, we'll cover that as well. All these topics are covered a little more in depth with other videos, but this is a high-level overview of all these different things. So with that, let's get into the recess. So the three parts, starting with part one, is the housing. That's what holds the LED or the lamp or the incandescent light bulb, if you will. Housing is what you don't see once the house is all done. They can be, housing can be lamped. It can be an integrated housing as well. That's going to be a separate video topic that's pretty in-depth. The trim is the second part. That's what you do see. It can be a white baffle, a black baffle, a haze. And then the third part is going to be a lamp or a light bulb. It could be an LED, it could be an incandescent, etc. It could be a compact fluorescent in some cases. So three parts: housing, trim, and lamps. The exception to all this is that when you combine a trim and a light bulb, it becomes what we call a retrofit. That's relatively new in the last couple of years. It's very popular. There's some great ones out there, and then there's some not so great ones. New construction versus remodel, what does that mean? Well, it's pretty obvious after you hear it. New construction are the housings that are used almost always in new construction. They have hanger bars. They get installed during rough construction. The rafters are exposed and open. They're easy to install. And so a new construction housing is used during new construction versus remodel housings are usually used during remodeling, because a lot of times the sheetrock's left in place. When it is, you cut a hole, you insert the remodel can, and you're ready to go for the most part. So new construction for new cans, and then remodel housings for when you're remodeling, and basically where the sheetrock's left in place. So this is a picture of a new construction. You can see one example with the hanger bars, another example of a remodel housing down here in the lower left, where it basically is held by the sheetrock itself. IC versus non-IC, this is a pretty easy topic. IC housing means insulated ceiling. That means that insulation can go right on top of the can body and it will work correctly. Minimal air movement through the can. It is an energy efficient aspect, and that is really important. It's required, has been for many years on exterior walls. So if you have an attic above that room, it would need to be an IC type housing. It makes sense. You always want to use them. They don't cost more. It just makes sense. Non-IC housings are just that. They are meant to not have insulation on top of them directly. It needs to be kept 3 inches or more away from them. It's a pretty easy thing to understand. It's not so easy for it always to happen. If you have a can that shuts off and then turns back on the next day or later on, you most likely have either lamped it with too high a wattage light bulb, or it's covered in insulation and it's non-IC and it's overheating, and so it's, for safety reasons, it automatically shuts off. IC housings let a lot of air move through them, so air conditioning and heating from your house will flow through that can up into your attic if you don't have if you're using a non-IC can. So we always want to use IC. Older houses have non-IC housings. There's a few things you can do to fix that as well. But line voltage versus low voltage. Basically, that's when you have a can, both are fed with 120 volt. A low voltage can, though, is going to run a MR16, AR111, Par 36 type lamp. Those are typically 12 volt light bulbs, not always, but usually. And there's a transformer that's part of the housing. And so to most people that don't understand that difference, it makes a big difference. So because it dictates the light bulb, you're using a low voltage can for an MR16, which is by far the most popular. That's basically used for art lights, accent lighting, pin spotting, things like that. And so it can be a magnetic low voltage transformer or an electronic low voltage transformer. Typically, from my experience, magnetic transformers are better. Electronic transformers are less expensive. And but for sure, not all low voltage cans use integrated transformers, so you got to understand what you're doing and all the details on it. But a picture of a non-low voltage 4-inch can is over here above my head. There's no transformer in that product. If you look at the one on the left side, that's actually a 4-inch can that steps down. There's a black little box there, that's the transformer. It happens to be magnetic, and that converts that so it can run a MR16, for example. And so line voltage versus low voltage, we're covering that. Again, line voltage, no transformer. Low voltage, you get a transformer. So that is one of the most common misunderstandings I have. Line voltage 4-inch is completely different product than a low voltage 4-inch. So housings, let's talk a little bit more about it. The main body of the recessed, it's what you don't see once the ceiling is closed in. It holds the trim and the light bulb. It can be IC or non-IC. It's new construction and remodel. And if you overlamp it, too much wattage, it'll shut down. So in that regard, there's an example of a housing, again, over my head. That's a new construction housing. Trims, that's what you do see. It's the finished part. It also includes the trim ring. You know you have a better trim automatically if it's a thin trim ring versus a big fat one. There's many finish options. White baffle is the most common. Black baffle exists. Haze, etc., like that. Alzac's are a whole family of product, and it's quite diverse now. It's more diverse than it's ever been, and it's a really neat finish out. Alzac is basically a smooth finish. It doesn't mean shiny, but it's smooth. There are pinhole trims, there's adjustable trims, there's retrofit trims, there's tons and tons of trims. So you want to understand that, because trims are designed for certain cams. So you got to use the right housing so you can use the right trim. And then, as I said before, a thin trim ring is always good. A fat trim ring is ugly. So ugly. And there's an example of a trim. So lamping, we call the term lamping or light bulbs interchangeably in the industry. It can be an LED, it could be an incandescent. We are seeing a much greater use of LEDs. They've improved significantly over the last 4 or 5 years. Different recesses, though, are designed for different lamps, different sizes, different wattages, etc. You can also use retrofit trims versus light bulbs, and I have a different video on retrofit trims, and we covered it just slightly in here. And you need to, more important than anything, you need to make sure you don't exceed the lamp rated for that recess. A housing and a trim is always rated for certain kinds of light bulbs, including the wattages and the size, and so you need to follow those. And there's a couple pictures of light bulbs. There's a PAR lamp shooting straight up, and that's a BR lamp that's turned sideways. Two most common light bulbs used in a 6-inch can. And a retrofit trim, I got another video on that, but it's basically, it came about with the creation of LED in the lighting world. It basically, we're taking the bulb and the trim and making it into one product. The high quality stuff is great, the low quality stuff, not so great. So choose carefully. But if the LED fails, you basically replace the whole unit, and it might take 5 or 10 minutes at most. It's a very easy exercise. Actually, it might take about 60 seconds it depends on how you do it. Again, the quality varies greatly, and so does the price, and they go together. So a low price is usually lower quality, and vice versa. Dimmability, color, etc. You probably, if you're going to use retrofits, look at my retrofit video. It'll help you on that. And dimmability is really important. It might say dimmable. If it didn't cost $10, it probably does not dim very well. I like to just tell people, test it before you use a lot of them. No reason to install 40, 50, 100, and then find out that that really doesn't meet your needs, etc. Or it doesn't work well with your existing dimming system or things like that. So, and here's a picture of my favorite current retrofit. It's made by Juno, which is owned by Lithonia. And again, if you watch the retrofit video series, you'll learn a little bit more about that. So anyway, that wraps this up. We have other video topics, and we're always creating new ones. If you've got a particular topic, shoot us a note about it. The more responses we get, if you like one, let us know. If you don't like one, I guess let us know. One of the topics, what's a retrofit? Another one, new construction versus remodel, IC. Square versus round. Squares are popular right now, so there's things to consider for that before you just run down that road. Lamped versus integrated recessed, and a whole bunch of other videos. So with that, I appreciate you watching The Lighting Gourmet. I hope you learned something, and watch another video. Have a great night. Thanks a lot.